Your name is John Kafi.
Greetings, you are now listening to Coffee Talk, and this is John Kafi. Here at Coffee Talk, we do this for the culture with new episodes every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern. You can check us out online at www.coffee-talk.com. That is KAFI-TALK.com. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at John_Coffee_. Follow me on Twitter at John_Coffee. Be sure to like that Facebook page at facebook.com/CoffeeTalkPod. You can subscribe to us on YouTube at Coffee Talk, hosted by John Kafi, and we're also available on Spotify. Once again, that is KAFI. Okay, first order of business for this episode of Coffee Talk, that is episode 12. Before we get to our special featured guest, who is Judah the Prince, formerly known as Krumb Snatcha. I want to touch on the topic of awareness. I think awareness is very important when it comes to hip-hop culture and hip-hop music. But in this particular edition of Coffee Talk, I want to talk about a different form of awareness. I want to talk about awareness inside the culture, internally, not awareness outside of the culture. By that I mean in between, in local music scenes, sometimes you have a little bit of division, and people on one side of town may not associate with people on another side of town, and people who do one style of hip-hop might not associate with another style of hip-hop, and it goes with performances, live performances, recording, etc., etc. I just want to remind everyone, just because you're not aware, all listeners, everybody's listening to me now, just because you're not aware of something happening doesn't mean it's not happening or it's not important to someone else. I think sometimes this is most apparent when people try to show their support of certain artists that other people think aren't successful enough to be recognized. We all have our own taste, and we all like different forms of music, and some of us enjoy making music. So I just say live and let live. I mean, I think it's best to delve into different styles of music or appreciate a lot of different forms of music outside of and inside of hip-hop. There are many different styles to choose from, and why not be diverse in your appreciation? So just make sure when you're dealing with your fellow artists, that just because you're not aware of what they have going on, or you're not aware of a show or an album or an artist that they may look up to or who they are inspired by, it doesn't mean that they haven't inspired others. So, at some point, everyone doesn't have to be a super mega star for them to be recognized. Sometimes believe it or not, it's possible to make a significant impact on the culture without being a megastar. That's about it for this edition. Just a few words of wisdom for people to remain humble within the sphere of the culture, and remember to always, it's all in the approach. Remember to always approach with respect, and things might work out a little better. Peace. Oh yeah, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and respond in the comments under the YouTube video. Okay, for this episode's edition of Coffee's Crates, we have a few musical selections for you to check out. First on the list is our special featured guest, Judah the Prince. Now, he was formerly known as Krumb Snatcha of Gang Starr Foundation. This album, his debut album, that's on Coffee's Crates, is Respect All, Fear None. This album was released through D&D Studios' own record label, and the legendary D&D Studios in New York. And it has production from M.O.P, who's worked with Tupac and Biggie. We discussed him on some past episodes of Coffee Talk. DJ Premier of Gang Starr, the Beat Miners, famous for their work with Boot Camp Click, Helter Skelter, Buckshot, Original Gun Clappers, Alchemist, Knots, Arabian Night, who's a Wu-Tang affiliated producer, and more. It has some features of Buckshot of the aforementioned Boot Camp Click, Craig G, famous for his work with the Juice Crew back in the day, Gang Starr, lyrics of Guru on a song, and Jason of Special Teams, and more. Now, the second release on deck is J Royale, our special featured guest from last week's episode. Now, normally on Coffee's Crates, we showcase a project by our special featured guest, but I neglected to do that last episode, so we're going to do it this episode. This is J Royale's second official release. It's called the Baltimore Housing Project. It features production by his main producer, Ray Sosa, who we mentioned on the last episode, M.W.P, Ice Rocks, DXA, Micah Doe, Level 13, and Trevor Lang. And it has some features from Ill Conscious, Willie the Kid, Terminology, Ransom, and Sky Zoo. And our last but not least release on Coffee's Crates for this episode is Vakil, legendary MC from Chicago. The album is called God's Guns, and it features production by Memo and Panic of Mo Men, Knots, and SC. And it features the always inspiring and impressive Twista, another legendary MC from Chicago, MC Juice, and Mickey Halstead, as well as Vinny Paz of Jedi Mind Tricks. Now that's it for Coffee's Crates for episode 12. Stay tuned and we'll keep you plugged in with all of the hottest underground hip-hop releases.
To pay attention, I fake got it by some other hands. It's pandemics and more riots than understand. It's being a man now, define out surviving these perilous times. The world is blind. How can you enlighten the mind, but only find false information websites saying them chat lines? I believe it's a sign to search harder, go deep inside your soul. Align with the Father, there's a spiritual movement evolving, addressing the problems, finding different ways to raise up the cause.
This special featured guest for this episode of Coffee Talk is a legendary MC from Massachusetts, originally from Worcester, Massachusetts. He's dealt with DJ Premier and Guru. He's part of the Gang Starr Foundation. He's been doing some work with Protection Neck Records, and he's also got United Nations of Hip Hop that he's working with, dealing with a lot of artists from across the world. He's going to tell us about his journey through hip hop and some of the lessons he's learned along the way. Give it up for Judah the Prince. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, brother?
Doing great. Now I want to start at the origin. Your beginnings were in Massachusetts. Now, Massachusetts has quite a strong hip-hop scene. A lot of people don't know, well, maybe some people do know, that Guru's originally from Massachusetts, and then we've got people like Ed O.G., who you have some actually affiliations with. Could you give us a little insight on how it was growing up in the hip-hop world of that area?
When first starting off, at least when I was growing up, we didn't have too many artists really to look up to. At that particular time, I believe it was Almighty RSO, or Benzino and his group.
No doubt.
And then we had Ed O.G. As far as at least when I was growing up, and pretty much Edo was the reigning champ as far as was on MTV Raps and was well known and collaborated with a lot of great artists.
Gotta have it.
Oh yeah, that's a classic right there, man. He was inspiration for a lot of up and coming artists.
Right.
At that particular time.
So what, as far as not even in the local scene, just in general, what artists did you used to listen to when you were younger that kind of inspired you to want to pick up the pen?
It's so crazy. I used to like Gang Starr. I was listening to M.O.P, of course, Jay-Z, Nas, Wu-Tang, one of my favorite groups. There was a lot of great artists like Big L, Big Pun, God rest his soul. I mean, a lot of great artists. Some of them are gone, as of today, God rest their soul. But they inspired a lot of souls to come into hip hop and put their skill into the industry and get recognition and maybe not praise, but get acknowledged for the talent that you have. So all those artists really inspired me as far as a hip hop artist, but also I started in the beginning myself. So I was listening to UTFO and the Fat Boys. I mean, the beginning of hip hop.
No doubt.
Yeah, you know, all the way to the beginning. You know, Furious 5 and, you know, Grandmaster Caz and, you know, a lot of great artists, DJs, and so forth.
You mentioned among your inspirations Gang Starr, and later on in life, when you started picking up the pen and the microphone, you actually ended up connecting with the legendary duo of Guru and DJ Premier. Now, how did that all come about?
Actually, I was picked up through Scientific. Scientific was a hip-hop artist in the Lawrence area who had his affiliation with LOG, and, you know, he was going back and forth to New York, God rest his soul. And he actually introduced me to the independent label, and I started working with those souls, and then they actually brought me to meet DJ Premier. But at that particular time, I had ended up getting incarcerated. I had got shot up at a pool hall brawl or what have you. And they had approached Premier on doing a remix for a song that I had already did for the independent label. So Premier said, you know, rather than, doing a remix, he'd rather wait till I come home and try something then. So, you know, as soon as I came home, they brought me to New York to D&D Studios. And Premier had actually put on the Closer to God beat in the studio. And he had no idea what I had in my mind. He was just like, go in the booth and let me see what you do. And so when I went in the booth, I had already wrote Closer to God when I was in the infirmary and the county. So I ended up, going in there, spitting the vocals to that. And he liked the vocals, and he liked how the song was coming along, and he kept it. And that was the Closer to God record that he did.
Classic joint, Closer to God. I remember hearing that on a mixtape. It might have been the 5 Deadly Venoms of Brooklyn with DJ Premier.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And let's tap a little bit into the concept of Gang Starr Foundation. Now, it was, I don't know how loosely knit it was, but a lot of fans of Gang Starr recognized that there were affiliated artists such as J. Rue the Damager, Big Shug, Group Home, yourself, as well as Afro Raw, M.O.P, et cetera. How well did you guys stay in contact with one another? Were there a lot of collabs between the artists and Gang Starr Foundation, or was it just everyone was connected to Gang Starr?
Oh, there was definitely collabs. Once you go inside D&D Studios, everybody's in there, even if you're not recording. Right. People were just in there playing pool, watching TV, just networking. I used to come all the way from Massachusetts and just to hang out in the studio. I wouldn't even have to have a studio session. Right. Just hanging out with the artists and stuff. So, it's more like a family type thing. We all knew each other personally before the music stuff, because we were all in the studio.
Right.
I had done songs with Teflon. I've done songs with M.O.P. And, I used to see Dap and them all the time in and out of the studio and kicking with them. Afu, I'm on his projects. I mean, it's a big family thing. Everybody's connected. And, and the Chain and the Star was the foundation of it all.
No doubt, the Chain and the Star. Now, D&D Studios itself was a legendary studio, and from that, there was a label called D&D Records. I remember they put out a compilation album back in the 90s, but also you actually released how many albums? I remember Respect All, Fear None was one. Was that the only one you released on D&D Records?
Yeah, it was a one-off with them, and it was actually through Guru and Cream. They overseen the project, so... they offered me a one-album deal, which was like, for me, it's historic because that studio goes back to the beginning of hip-hop, and it's a privilege. So, and I was one of the few artists, I believe Craig G might have did an album with them, and maybe Kurt Cazell. But, to be in that catalog with a historic studio is really something that's is really good, as far as... being amongst some of the greats that come in and out of that studio. So it was a privilege, to be honest.
Definitely elite and prestigious class of artists have went through that studio. Now, on that Respect All, Fear None album, you had some elite production from producers such as Alchemist, DJ Premier, Nationz, and a few others. How did that come about, and how did you feel to get such great production behind your vocals from such a variety of producers?
Man, I felt honored. It actually didn't sink in until like years later. I was a lot more young. My mind was like in different things. So it didn't dawn on me till years later when like people were running around and like really begging these type of producers to do production for them.
Right.
And, shout out to Doug and Dave at D&D Studios and Premier. they were able to talk to these producers and get them to be able to contribute something to the project. I was just a kid from Lawrence, you know, from off the street, you know what I mean? So
right.
they, you know, for these dudes to take time off of their platform and you know, and what they were doing, you know, just to contribute to this project was really a really good moment in time for me.
Right. Now, as we said before, such a legendary space as D&D Studios, I'm sure there were some historic moments that happened when you were there. Is there anything you can pinpoint off the top of your head that stands out as a great memory from those days of D&D Studios?
Oh man, one time I was coming up the elevator. You know, there's an elevator to get to the, you know, I think second or third floor where the studio was. And Premier was walking with Big Pun towards the elevator. And he had already just played Closer to God for Pun in the studio.
Right.
And he was telling Big Pun, he was like, yeah, that's his song I was just playing. And Pun actually gave me props for the Closer to the God record. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'll never forget that because, you know, Pun that brother's like a legend in itself. God rest his soul.
No doubt.
You know, some people would, you know, die for a chance to meet Big Pun as far as at that particular time when he was coming out. And then, you know, Premier introduced me to him. He congratulated me on the Closer to God record. And that was something I never forgot as far as the D&D studio situation. That was one of the many. No
doubt. Pun, one of the goats of this culture, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
You have several classic tracks under your belt, and one of them is a joint called Wolves, which was a great collab between you and M.O.P., the Mash Out Posse, of course, affiliated with Gang Starr as well. And that was on the Training Day soundtrack. Now, how did that come about? How did that collab and that situation come about?
Through a mutual friend. Shout out to he was actually like my manager at the particular time, Kevin Mitchell. He was able to get me amongst, I think it was Priority Records at that particular time. And they, you know, gave me an opportunity to see the movie first. I believe it was me, Nelly St. Lunatics, and there was a couple other artists. We had a private screening of Training Day in a hotel in Manhattan.
Right.
And I seen the part where Denzel is telling Ethan Hawke it takes a wolf to catch a wolf. Right. And that sort of resonated with me, and I was like, that might be the right concept to approach this movie, because, you know, the whole movie was, the way it was put together and written was actually excellent as far as what goes on in Los Angeles with some of the, you know, the crash unit and certain police officers out there or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I took that concept and I took it home, and I ended up getting a hold of Nationz. Because, you know, I used to spend summers out there with Nationz in Virginia working this was back when he was working with Busta Rhymes. I used to go out in Virginia and spend maybe a summer or two out there with Nationz, just hanging around with him and his DMP people. So he sent me to be, initially it was supposed to be Busta Rhymes. We reached out to Busta Rhymes, and I guess something must have happened. He wasn't available. And then M.O.P. was able to jump on the track with me. And, you know, what they brought, the element that they brought to the song just increased the, you know, it just resonated, you know, the frustration and the anger of the inner community as far as when it comes to, like, police brutality and things of that nature. So they really, like, picked the record up into another platform. And actually, on the Training Day soundtrack, I was the only artist that was unsigned. So it really placed me in a different category.
Nice.
As far as my hip-hop career goes.
That's what's up. Now, that song Wolves, that was actually an acronym, and what does that stand for?
It stands for Warriors Organizing Life, Values, Escape, and Struggle.
Dope. Now, that also was the name or the moniker of a crew that you had, correct?
Yes, that's my hip-hop group I founded. It's various artists from different parts of the country, and then we have like a chapter that's overseas in Switzerland. You know, we're still building it. You know, we're open arms for, you know, new members and people who want to, you know, become a part of something that's positive for their community. You know, the whole thing is being protectors and providers for your children and the woman and your neighborhoods. You know, and you know, merging together to find a way to escape the struggle that we are all inflicted with. So that was the purpose of creating that group.
Yeah, that's definitely a great cause and a good sentiment there. Now, I do want to actually address something that was impactful to not only, I'm sure, yourself, but also the hip hop community at large, which was the death of Guru of Gang Starr. Now, how did you take that? How did you hear about it? And how did that affect your life in general?
It was really bad. Because I was there when he met Solar, and he wanted to take a different direction as far as production-wise and what he was doing with his Ill Kid record label and so forth. At that particular time, I was actually his artist on Ill Kid, not just a member of Gang Starr Foundation. He actually signed me on to a production management agreement, so I was actually his personal artist as well.
I see.
And at that time, I was doing work at a martial arts school at a summer camp and an after-school program. But I had spoken to him at Facebook. I try to reach out to him to see how he was doing and so forth. And that actually came out of nowhere. I had no idea. I actually learned through the radio.
Wow.
Yeah, so once I heard that, that's what actually made me come back into hip-hop, because I had quit actually because I wanted to work with the kids in the martial arts school.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and I had made an announcement I was going to retire and leave hip-hop for a bit. And then once that had happened, I was like, man, I think I might want to come back and see if I can try to further his name and legacy. Because, a lot of people really don't know the personal Guru.
Right.
That man was very knowledgeable. He was a wisdom being. He was a good man. I mean, he was a great guy. So I wanted to come back and see what I could do as far as furthering his name. And that was the only reason I really came back into hip-hop.
Right, definitely. Now, I don't know how far you want to get into this, but I wanted to also ask, the situation surrounding his death was pretty controversial, was addressed on the internet for a couple years about his producer and all that. Is there anything you wanted to say about that?
Not really much, man. Like I said, I was there when he met Solar. He was through a mutual friend. Somebody I had introduced to Guru. I guess that was their manager at that particular time.
Right.
And they were hitting it off, I guess, They started doing side projects and things of that nature. I think Guru wanted to just try something different or something new.
Right.
I don't know how their personal relationship was, because once he started hanging around with Solar, he sort of strayed from everybody else a little bit. So, I wasn't in contact with him as much as I would have liked of a band. Being I was his artist. So, things sort of went sour. I don't know all the details of, as far as him and how Solar is or how Premier feels about it. But,
right.
I mean, he made that decision, to try something different in his life. So, you have to respect it.
No doubt. Now, when you did make your comeback after that tragic situation, what was your first release? Did you go straight to Protect Your Neck Records, or did that occur later on?
I think as far as Protect Your Neck Records, I was groomed on Wu-Tang Management first.
Right.
John Moe Gibbons, the owner of Wu-Tang Management, signed me up on a production agreement. And I think I did maybe 2 or 3 projects under their guidance. I did Resurrection of the Golden Wolf, and I did a mixtape called I See, then an album, The Key. So, I was being groomed before the opportunity with the Protect Your Neck Records situation, which one of my close friends, Jimmy Kang, was actually, I believe, the vice president of that, as well as Wu-Tang Management.
Right. So
they offered me a deal to be able to, to come on back and drop a project for them. And, it's just been pretty much just not uphill, it's just been a path. I keep walking forward, dropping projects here and there, just trying to, get back into my swag, finding my mojo again as far as music goes.
Right. Now, you did release a project with Protect Your Neck Records. It's called Iron Will Ninja.
Okay, yeah, yes, sir.
And that's another alias that you use as well, or was that just a one-time thing?
That was just my Wu-Tang alias, my Wu-Tang affiliation alias. When I'm with them, I'm Iron Will Ninja.
Now, since then, you've also started your own label called Mind Power Entertainment. And could you tell us a little bit about that, how that started?
I wanted to be able to find my own artists and build my own, my own story without, riding, the Wu-Tang coattail or the Gang Starr coattail. So right. I felt it was important for me to be able to create my own label, to be able to call my own shots and make my own decisions.
Yeah.
So one of the one of the people that was on the management for Wu-Tang, he actually came with me. Shout out to Justice Hype. He was actually working for Wu-Tang Management at the particular time. So he came with me and helped me build up the Mind Power Entertainment label. And, building a label is not easy. It's been an uphill battle for us, but I think we're accomplishing some good things considering not having $1 million budget and things of that nature. So, it's one step at a time. We created the United Nations of Hip Hop. We have a clothing line. We just starting a yoga clothing line now. So, and then we're looking for artists. We're looking for more artists. I'd like to have artists that I can blend with and, I can get to know and, be in the studio with them and, give them some of the advice that Guru was giving me as far as in the studio. So I just want to build up the roster and get it out there.
No doubt. Now, how could an artist that might be interested in meeting with you or sending you their music, how could they get in contact with you?
They can get on the Facebook, the Mind Power Entertainment Facebook, or they can Justice Hype. They can get a hold of my business partner, Justice Hype. That's JUSTIS Hype, HYPE. He does a lot of the administrative stuff and shot calling for me as far as the label goes, and I stick mostly to like the artistic side.
That's what's up. Now, I want to rewind a little bit. Earlier, you mentioned during the whole retirement process for music that you were into a youth martial arts program. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I actually had one just, to train, to work out and stuff. And then the Grandmaster, me and the Grandmaster had a bond, and, he let me work at the summer camp. It just started off, I was supposed to do just one volunteer summer at the summer camp, and then it ended up extending to the after school program when the summer camp was over, and then I ended up being his personal student. And, and I was, it was sort of, I was doing volunteer work, but I was also getting free lessons and different lessons from the Grandmaster. So one hand washes the other, both hands wash their face. Right. And it made me feel good as far as being around children, because you watch your thoughts, you watch your speech, you watch how you live when you're around children. Right. So, it made me start elevating my mind to a higher platform and concentrating more on being a better person, especially when you have children that look up to you. Definitely. So it helped me, in many ways. Definitely. Sometimes the students can be the best teachers, as far as children go. Absolutely. And I did want to ask a little bit about the style of martial arts. What is it that you were involved in? I've done Taekwondo. I've done mixed martial arts, Kaju Kembo, which is like Kung Fu, Karate, Jiu-Jitsu. I've done like a little Wing Chun, 5-element Kung Fu. I tried that out. And, I went to a jiu-jitsu school here where I'm at now. But, I've had a couple back surgeries, so I try to take it easy. But, Taijutsu, I'm into the ninjutsu art. And it's more of a hobby. Right. So, were these schools located in Massachusetts? Some in Massachusetts, and now I'm living in Maine. So, the ninjutsu schools here in Maine. It's actually one of the schools that's descended from Hatsumi, Soki Hatsumi, which is, one of the last living ninjas, as they call them. So one of his students has a student that created the ninjutsu school and teaching us out here. I have so much on my plate, so I try to train when I can train. Right. Martial arts always stays with you. It's a discipline thing, I love martial arts. It's a great thing, so it helps you be a better person. Also, that Iron Will Ninja name and the Wu-Tang affiliation is a little deeper than most might have thought, right? Yeah, pretty much, man. That's, it's just saying, have an indomitable spirit. I mean, don't give up even when things get rough. To have an iron will. Right. Meaning whatever the obstacle is, stick to the goal, stick to what you're doing. And eventually some doors will crack open for you. Without a doubt. Now, you have something also that you're doing with the international collective of artists called the United Nations of Hip Hop. Correct. Could you tell me a little bit more about that as far as some of the artists and where they might be from? Right now, I believe we're up to mixtape 11. And each mixtape we find like the DJ who's well known in that particular country. Like we started off with Japan, and then you know, we went to Haiti, then France, England, different DJs from different parts of the world. And what we do, we have artists contribute music in their own language,
right,
in their own tongue. Because, you know, hip-hop is universal. That's a common language.
No doubt.
So, you know, though you may not understand the language, you understand how they flow over the beat, the cadence. You know, good hip-hop is good hip-hop.
Right.
And you know, and what we ended up doing is creating like a global network of hip-hop artists and DJs with this mixtape series.
Nice.
So, you know, yeah, and everybody can participate. I mean, you just have to, you know, hit up Mind Power, Justice Hype, and, you know, send in some music or what have you. I think number 11 now, I think we went back to Japan. It's in the process now of being made. So you hear like Japanese artists, artists from the East, artists from Africa, artists from Europe. I mean, all over the place. Everyone is contributing.
That's what's up. Now, what inspired that?
To be honest, I would say Guru, man, because I've been on a couple tours with him. But one particular tour was just me, him, and the DJ and our tour manager, Fat Gary. Shout out to Fat Gary. And we actually toured, I believe, like 20 to 23 countries on this one.
Wow.
We're out there for like a month, a little over a month or a little bit more. And we went to all these different countries, and I like watched how Guru interacted with the fans, with the media, with the radio people, and just seeing how people love hip hop so much outside of this country. So, you know, I thought, you know, a great contribution would be to be able to create some type of mixtape series that we can turn into like a global hip hop award show. That's the overall goal for the United Nations of Hip Hop. We want to do an award show where the fans get to vote who is, you know, the top artist in their region, in their country.
Right.
And, you know, and then have some award show in different places every year, in, you know, different parts of the world. And then have, you know, the fans vote for who, you know, and have them receive awards for being the top artist in their country.
Right, like for the culture, by the culture type thing, right?
That's it. Let the people, let the fans determine who is that artist for them, rather than a panel of judges or what have you. Let the fans vote. Who do they think represents their area or their country?
Yeah, that's a dope idea right there. Now you have this, you have a new project. It's called Saint Judah, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's under the name Judah the Prince. Now, what brought about the change of the name, and what's the overall concept for this new album?
Judah the Prince. Like I had just recently got baptized in February and found my faith in Christ Jesus. Mm-hmm. So, you know, there's been a lot of changes going on in my life. Right. And so I wanted to contribute and do something more on a Christian scale for the public. And it just so happened through a mutual friend, DJ Stress, from Producer's Corner. He put me in contact with a producer from Brazil named Lincoln Rossi. Shout out to Lincoln Rossi. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we first started off, we were going to do an EP. And then it ended up like we just said, forget it, let's do a whole album. And what we did, it's me mixed with some Brazilian artists and certain songs. And, you know, the content is Christian spirituality, but it's also mixed in with like good, it has Buddhism teachings and so forth. It's just a good album of positive energy. Right. And I just thought it was a good contribution for me as far as coming back with a new lifestyle and a new mindset that I have now. And Judah the Prince, I've always had that name. You know, it's just so many different ways how to look at it, because Judah means praise in Hebrew. Right. So, you know, I'm just saying, giving praise through the music to the Father, you know, and being a prince, a son of the Most High. No doubt, no doubt. And that's my name, period. You know, that's the name I'm sticking with from now on. So next projects you'll see here come out. Like I'm doing a project, an album that I'm going to call Jerusalem. So that's my next focus. And, you know, it's going to be more positive spiritual music. Hopefully, you know, good hip hop. That's what's up. That's what's up. Now, out of all of your
collabs and all the producers you work with, what are a few standout tracks in your career that you think are some of your greatest work?
Well, I would think, you know, though my mind is not there on that platform anymore, but I think Wolves was definitely significant, and it was something that, you know, people needed to hear as far as in regards of what's going on in certain communities.
Right.
You know, I did a collab. So many people I've collabed with. I did a collab with Ghostface. I did something with Shabba Ranks, which a lot of artists really can't say.
Dope.
That they did something with Shabba Ranks. So I have done something with Shabba Ranks. Man, I'm trying to remember some of the artists I've worked with. Lord Tariq. Man, it's just, you know, especially Gang Starr. That stands out the most. I'll say Gang Starr #1. Just being on their albums is a story.
Right.
Because they don't just have everybody on their albums. So I would say the 2 Gang Starr albums I was on is the most important. And the songs I've done with Guru throughout my career.
Definitely, definitely. Now, you had 2 projects. Were they mixtapes or albums? Snatcha Season 1 and 2?
Those are my first 2 albums.
Oh, okay, I see.
But I'm also working on a reggae album now, in the process. We're almost done. I think we have like 12 songs. It's called Iron Line of Zion.
Nice.
And it's like reggae and hip hop.
So are you going to be rapping on that, or are you doing the dance hall type thing, or both?
I'm rapping on it, but the producer, Pizzazz 16, he's the one that's doing the soundscape to it. So he has all these great sounds, and it sounds like official, like it sounds like real reggae. It just has hip hop lyrics on it.
Right,
you can probably see a couple songs on Spotify or Amazon that's out there now, like Jah Message and Can't Take I Power. There's a few records that's already out there that we put out there for singles, and I'm wrapping up the album towards the end of the year. So
that's what's up. Now, are you still in contact with Primo?
Actually, yeah, I just actually spoke to him, I believe. He did an episode on one of his podcasts or YouTube shows.
Yeah, I saw that about Closer to God.
Yeah, it was about Closer to God, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he actually texted me and let me know to check it out and stuff. And that wasn't too long ago. That was the last time I had spoken to him.
Now,
shout out to DJ Premier.
Shout out legendary, official stamped DJ Premier.
Pioneer.
Yeah, definitely. Now, as far as I want to rewind a little bit just to get some backstory on like when you retired from hip hop. It just struck my mind because I'm a curious person. What actually brought about that change? Like when you said, I want to leave the game, I'm done with this.
I mean, the overall thing was the Grandmaster had offered me my own school. So he said, you know, stick with him. And then his next school that he opens, you know, I'll be the teacher inside the school. But most of all was the children. And, you know, I had ended up bonding with a lot of these kids. I mean, they come as low as maybe 4 or 3 years old. And I mean, it just gave me a whole different outlook and feel about life.
Right.
And, you know, I wasn't thinking about hip hop anymore.
Right.
So, you know, I pretty much was saying, you know, I'm pretty much done with the hip hop thing. I'd rather just do the martial arts with the kids.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, Guru had passed. And that's when I was like, man, all right, is anybody going to, you know, I know Premier has, you know, that's his artist, that's his brother, you know, they have their own relationship. Right. But I was also his personal artist.
Right.
So I wanted to you know, to get back out there and you know, maybe cut a record or two, you know, and further the cause. Further his name, you know, big him up on records and so forth.
Yeah.
That was the only reason I ended up coming back.
That's what's up. Now, what label are you officially on as of now? Are you still with Wu-Tang Management and Protect Your Neck, or Mind Power Entertainment?
I have the Mind Power thing that I released some of my projects on Mind Power. You know, the lines of communication is open with Protect Your Neck. But, you know, I'm an unsigned artist. Right now, I'm still an unsigned artist. I'm just like grinding, trying to cut these albums out and try to, you know, increase the label worth and increase, you know, my worth as an artist in this industry. So
definitely. Have you ever thought about signing with a gospel label maybe?
Oh, that would be awesome. I would really like that. That would be great.
Yeah, because I think there's actually a big, I was familiar with it some years ago, but I'm in the Midwest, and a friend of mine had let me know about, you know, that there's actually a underground gospel rap scene on the, you know, online you know, so that's there. That's definitely a fan base to tap into to spread that message.
Absolutely, man. I'm actually have to look into that. We need to stay in contact after this interview.
No doubt.
If possible.
Yeah, I did want to see if you had any final messages, like for the hip hop nation in general, like looking at how the world is, or, you know, just how the music scene is, or music in general. Do you have any message for the hip hop nation, or just the community at large?
I just think as far as like hip hop wise, we need to come together as a people, let alone as an art form. I mean, it's too much life being lost. Rappers are getting robbed. Rappers are getting killed. Back in the day, hip-hop was like a voice for the people. You were the champion of the people. People would celebrate you and celebrate with you.
Right.
Now, folks want to take your life and take your watch.
Right.
So, I mean, we need to really consciously, you know, understand the messages that we're giving these children, because these children are our future.
Right.
So, I mean, we need to stop policing our own behavior and what we're putting out there as far as material for these children, because whether it's negative or positive, I mean, we have a hold and effect on the youth, and that's our future.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to say like change your whole outlook of how you work with your hip hop or how you do your music or whatever.
Right.
But understand that you're a role model, whether you like it or not. Know what that comes with it. That comes with the territory.
Right.
So we need to stop policing our own and really start unifying in this hip hop thing, or we're going to see more and more rappers go.
No doubt. Now, from the perspective of an artist that turned over a new leaf or had a rebirth, so to speak, in their life, as far as your philosophy and your content, how do you tend to look back at your prior material? Does it make you feel regretful, or do you just look at it as that was just a stage of my life I went through, a growing process?
You know what? Both. First, I really don't listen to my old music. I was going through like, I'm ashamed I even did this type of music type thing. But then, as you progress and you get some wisdom behind it, that was the lifestyle I was living. That's all I knew.
Mm-hmm.
What I was rapping about was what I was around and what I was seeing, what I was involved in. So I can't really hold myself at fault, but I'm trying to clean it up now. This is why, the direction in the new albums that I'm going now is showing spiritual maturity.
Right.
Showing that, I was there, but look where I am now. It's a progress. I mean, It's a process.
Yeah.
Life is a process. You're not supposed to stay in that stage of development or that sort of mind, that view.
Right.
You're supposed to evolve as a human being. And now I'm looking at it like, okay, that's where my mind was at then. Let's see where my mind is going now.
Right, I see. Now, in terms of that growth and development of your life, people, when they go through processes like that, they usually have to end up cutting out behaviors and sometimes even associates that were affiliated with that old lifestyle. Have you noticed when you made a change in your creative process that maybe your direction changed as far as who you wanted to work with? Were there any particular artists that you wouldn't work with based on their content? Like, for instance, if a gangster type hip hop artist wanted to do a song with you and they were a fan of your past work, would you turn them down, or would you just make sure that the content was up to par with your message?
I would say the content is up to par, not with just my message. I would just let them know, look, there's certain things that I won't do.
Right.
Or I won't go, this far. But I mean, he can rap the way he wants, or she rap the way they want, and we'll find a mutual ground. And and get some good music out there. I'm willing to work with anybody. I won't turn anyone down.
That's what's up.
I mean, this is what hip hop is about. It's all building. So I don't turn artists down. I mean, I even do like guest features for next to nothing. I mean, it doesn't even matter for me. It's about spreading love.
Right.
A good message and good music out there.
So is there any final words you have for our listeners out there as far as how they can get in contact with you, with your music, or, find your music online, or just a message in general?
Basically, you can probably do, I have an artist Facebook, but I'm not really on the artist Facebook at this particular time, but you can always email me at Judah the Prince. That's JUDAHTHAPRINCE. And the number 7@gmail.com. I'm willing to work with all artists, especially, if you're into the hip hop, gospel, and the Christian I'm willing to work with everybody, man. You know, just get a hold of me, man, and, you know, check out my last project, St. Judah. I mean, I think it's a good hip-hop album, and for one, and it's a good Christian spiritual message for two. And look out for, you know, my reggae album, Iron Lion Unsigned. That should be coming soon. And, you know, shout out to Mind Power, my partner Justice Hype, and, you know, all the fans out there, man. Just thank you for supporting me throughout the years.
Definitely. Here at Coffee Talk, we appreciate you coming through and blessing us with your legendary lessons of life, sir. And we'll hope to have you back when you have a new release, or if you ever want to chat with us about anything, get it off your chest for my listeners to hear. It's an open platform for you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, brother.
Give it up. Judah the Prince. Thanks for listening to Coffee Talk. Are you interested in appearing on the podcast? Reach out to me at coffee.talk@gmail.com. Business owners and entrepreneurs are welcome. Sponsorship packages are available to have your product or service featured on Coffee Talk. Once again, that email is coffee.talk@gmail.com. That's KAFI.talk@gmail.com.